Hi everybody, my name is Mike Becker. I'm Director of Data Analytics and Sciences at Ringcentral. And I want to say I'm really excited to be here. I really feel privileged that Streamsets invited me to come and present to you all. Obviously it's a pretty big crowd and I'm sure there's a lot of people here with a lot of experience. And so what I'm here today is to tell you a little bit about Ringcentral, about how we do analytics at scale, and some of the lessons learned. So my agenda today is I'm going to talk about Ringcentral. I'm going to talk about our self-service enablement data services, our customer 360 data lake, a fraud monitoring use case that we use Streamsets for, and then some lessons learned. So before I get started, I need to explain to you what unified communication as a service is, because not everybody here is in the telephony business and different verticals. Unified communication as a service, as it says here, is a category of cloud service delivery mechanisms for enterprise communications. Wow, that's pretty boring, right? So really what it is, it includes telephony, so your normal phone calls, video conferencing, collaboration software where you can text each other through a collaborative platform. It includes audio conferencing, and then it includes integrations. And integrations is really the most interesting part. And I'm going to walk you through one of our integrations, and I think you'll agree with me that these integrations are really special. So we have integrations with Salesforce, and I want you to put yourself in a sales rep's position, and the sales rep has a headset that's connected to his or her computer, and they're in Salesforce, and they see a contact and they want to touch base with that contact. So they click on the number and it initiates a call. They have a conversation with their customer. They take notes in Salesforce the entire time. They disconnect the call. They save their work, and they've never left Salesforce. But they used Ringcentral. Because of that integration with Salesforce, they were able to click on that number and initiate a phone call over our service. So that's what an integration is. And now I'm going to set the context for Ringcentral. There's some macroeconomic trends that are going on in the world today that are propelling our growth. First of all, there's roughly a little bit over 7 billion people in the world. And apparently, they have more than one phone. Right? There's way more mobile subscribers than there are people in the world. Well, not way more, but there are more, period. And at the same time, what's going on is that fixed lines are decreasing. So, cell phones are becoming ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And these landline legacy PBX systems really aren't designed for the modern worker. And what do I mean by modern worker? Well, a modern worker expects to work on any device, anywhere, on any mode. So you expect to be able to have a phone call on a normal landline. You expect to be able to have a call on your cell phone. And you expect to be able to video conferencing and share your face over the internet. This is normal. This is what everybody expects today. And communication is now more than voice. As you can see here, if you combine team messaging, text, audio conferencing, and video conferencing, it's actually more than voice. So more and more we're using multiple modes of communicating. And so Ringcentral provides that service. Any device, anywhere, any mode. To businesses. We're mostly a business communication provider. And so our value proposition is that we're user-centric and mobile-first, integrated team collaboration, cloud PBX, and we have over 1,000 integrations similar to that Salesforce integration I told you about. And more we're becoming part of that IT suite, right? So today people expect Salesforce, NetSuite, ServiceNow, Workday, and we're part of that stack. So a CIO, when they're looking at putting their stack in, they'll look at Ringcentral as that YouCast provider. Of course, there's other providers besides Ringcentral. And there's a huge total addressable market. Alone in the United States, there's a $25 billion market, and worldwide it's $75 billion. And right now, I think we're tracking around $750 million to $800 million a year. We expect to be about $1 billion in 2020. So as you can see, there's a lot of room for growth. And there's a lot of companies that are really starting to recognize that this is a growing area, and they're starting to invest. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all the big players are starting to try to get into this market. And, I talked a little bit about this YouCast, and, the on-prem YouCast is declining by 12% a year. Overall, cloud YouCast is growing about 21%, and Ringcentral is growing about 34%. And, the cloud is winning, and Ringcentral is winning in the cloud. And we are the #1 provider in YouCast today. This is old. That right there is very old. This is an old slide. It's closer to about 750 to 800 million now. Revenue, 32% year-over-year growth, over 200 million calls a month, and over 350,000 customers. And as you can see, our total PBX minutes is growing tremendously, over 30% year-over-year increase. Just last year, we clocked in about 7.5 billion minutes of use. Okay, so that's my commercial for Ringcentral. But I think I'm trying to set a context here for you, is that we're a rapidly growing company. And, I can't say that our data platform is real new, but when I first started at Ringcentral, we really couldn't scale. We were based on old technology, and we really couldn't scale out like we needed to do. So we knew that we needed to create a platform and environment where we could scale rapidly with the growth of the company. And so we created what we call our self-service data service. And so what we do is we create a data lake, and it's really at the center of everything. So we bring in all of our product telemetry, our customer and partner information, like from Salesforce and Marketo, our transactions off of our financial systems, as well as our employees. And it all starts with the source system, right? So we have, original data that's indefinite in time, any source, full fidelity. It includes our structured ERP, CRMs, information off of our platform, our SaaS platform, which includes everything from those integrations that we have, we call those API calls, to our call detail records off of our telephony systems, to our transactions, and then our unstructured information, which a lot of that's like our API calls and such, and then even external data sources. And then so we build our self-service platform. So this is a commercial for Streamset. You see we use Streamsets to ingest a lot of data onto our Hadoop platform, as well as Kafka, Scoop, Flume, and Talent. And we create this single source of truth. And from there, we have our BI tools that are self-service. And we have one tool that we created. And oh, by the way, I just want to point out here, this is Eric Parlin. He's our manager of data engineering, and he's been a big part of creating this platform. And the reason I brought that up is because of this data discovery tool. It's based on Metabase. We've branded it as our Data Explorer. That's right. And we call it Data Explorer internally. And then, of course, we use Tableau for our business users. And then our advanced, with a couple of D's there, analytics. And we use Data Robot a lot. And of course, we have SQL access through Impala. I don't know if people here are familiar with Impala, and Hive, and then we have API and search. And so we've created these self-service BI tools and consumption pipelines, and our data we recognize as a feature for the company. And so we provide data as a service to all our users. And so every department in the company accesses this platform. And this is an example of our Data Explorer Metabase. So it's really cool because you know, if somebody's interested, so like a lot of times we'll have an engineer who really isn't a data analyst, but they want to go in and look at logs and figure out what's going on, like with our platform, our API platform, our telephony system, and we'll give them access to the system, and they'll be able to drill into the different information and visualize it and such so that they can get a better understanding about what's going on in their operations. And you know, what's really cool also, what we like about this tool is that if somebody knows a little SQL, they can throw a little SQL in there and they can get results from it also. Okay, so now we created this data platform that everybody in the company can use. It scales out, which is great. But if we don't have the right kind of information there, then it's really not going to be useful for anybody. So we created what we call a Customer 360 Data Lake. And the Customer 360 Data Lake is really aimed at product, marketing, and our support organization. It provides a single source of truth about our customers. And we have everything in there from when a lead gets converted into an order all the way to that customer getting a support ticket or their bill. Everything's in that data lake. And it's allowed our marketing department to start doing what's called account-based marketing. So what that means is that because they have this 360 degrees of information, they're able to target their message to specific customers based on their profile. And it's flexible and vendor agnostic. And on top of that, because we have this data lake, we're able to take all this information and create machine learning models that allow us to create predictive analytics that allow us to have proactive kind of support with our customers. And that's been really powerful for us. And this is what it looks like. So I think these are all systems everybody's familiar with. Of course, we've got Salesforce, and this is our internal systems, Ringcentral. Has anybody heard of Glip? That's our collaboration software. I'm not going to say who it's similar to. Then we have Marketo, we have our Adobe Analytics that's called Omniture, which measures clickstream, so we know when people are on our website how they're using it. Also, Segment does that for us too. So Segment is a SaaS provider, and what we do is we create JavaScript triggers that we send information to Segment, and then we ingest that onto our data platform. So we even know how people are using our product, right? So like how often do they click on a button and things like that. And of course NetSuite, which is more around the financial transactions. So we have this data lake that has everything about our customers. And you know, it's the similar reporting architecture. So we have our source data that I showed you, and then we use Hadoop as our data lake to do the transformation, standardizations, aggregations. And actually, we have a lot of users that use Hadoop directly with Segment and Data Explorer. So, and then we do push the data up to Vertica for our business users to use with Tableau. We use Tableau with a live connection to Vertica. And so what that does is that gives us that nice user interface, but really fast performance on the back end. But the super users are really down here using Impala and Hadoop.
Some of them use Streamsets.
A lot of them use Streamsets. Yeah, absolutely.
You mean your users use Streamsets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in our operations department uses it a lot. Thank you, Eric. All right, and then fraud monitoring. This is a really cool story. So let's start off with, well, how does a call travel at Ringcentral? So on the left, we have our customers who either are connected to through the ISP on a phone that's like a VoIP phone, or on their computer. And that is the customer's ISP provider. And you'll see here we have what's called a media gateway, right? And that media gateway really kind of separates us from the internet, but it also keeps track of all the calls as they're going through it. And we get a lot of data off those media gateways. And then the next part over here is our carrier network. And this is our traditional carrier network like Verizon, AT&T. There's lots of different carriers. And we have a gateway called Sonus. And that Sonus is our gateway to our carrier partners. And we keep track of all the traffic that goes to our carrier partners. And then of course we have our span of control, and that's really the area that we control. And that's this area right here. So as you can see, a phone call, we don't necessarily have control on the edge. We only have control in the center. And so I'm going to talk a lot about this carrier part, because carrier is a big part of our business, and it's a large percent of our cost. And so we were very interested in making sure, because it's such a large part of our cost, making sure that that cost was accurate. It's going to turn into fraud eventually. It's going to be interesting. And so what we do is we take that Sonus source system, and then we correlate the carrier legs of the call to the trunk. And so for instance, a trunk would be like a presence for a provider. So AT&T will have a trunk in San Francisco, they have a trunk in San Jose, have a trunk in New York City, and Atlanta, and Miami. And basically, we route the traffic to those different trunks depending on the call profile. And those trunks correspond to carrier. And then we take the carriers give us their rate tables, and we upload those rates onto our Hadoop platform, and then we correlate those rates to the calls, and then we're able to generate reports for carrier costs. And so this is what it looks like. So you see we have our rate tables that we get from our providers, and then we have these call detail records, and then we have these ISP meter records. If you can remember, that's the ISP portion of the call. And we land all those using Streamsets onto our Hadoop platform. We rate those CDRs based on the rate tables that we got from our provider. We push them onto Vertica, and then we have cost reporting. And one thing we found out in this exercise, our carriers' bills are pretty accurate. So that's what we found out. We did a lot of work, right? And we're like, oh man, our bills are accurate. What are we going to do? And so you know, just to show you, as you'll see here, the total and the minutes of use are gone because that's proprietary. I can't really share that information. But these are like the different trunks and, you know, outbound overall IXC. And basically, so we're able to get the total cost and the total minutes of use per trunk. And then even roll that up by a carrier partner. So I don't even know who AT. First thing, as soon as I joined this company, I found out there's not just AT&T and Verizon. There's about 30 or 40 carriers that you don't even know of. That's all they do is provide that backhaul for phones. But as you can see here, we were able to get number of calls, billable minutes of use, service duration, call cost, and even calls per minute, which is really important to us, right? We want to minimize that as much as possible. Okay, so the carrier bills are very accurate. But then we were thinking, wow, you know, if we can do this, then that means that we can actually roll up the cost of a call by our customer. And so one of our major fraud use cases at Ringcentral is that somebody will hack an account. Okay, so somebody in Italy will somehow get the password of one of our users' accounts and they'll hijack it. And then they know somebody in a far off land that works for a carrier in a country that, you know, I don't know, Yemen or Sudan or something, and they'll get a kickback by sending lots of calls to that carrier. So they hijack the account, then they send lots of minutes of use to that carrier, where we'll get a huge bill, which will far exceed what the customer would ever pay us, right? And then whoever does that, they get a kickback. And so that's a major use case. So we figured out we have to watch for those high cost areas, and that the quicker this usage is detected and investigated, the quicker it can be stopped. So Same architecture. The only difference is here you'll see before we took our rated CBRs by carrier, now we do it by customer, and we put those into our fraud reports, right? And so I'm going to show you a real world report that happened several years ago. And this is cost of a call. And then each of these colors is a carrier. And then this is a day. And you'll see all of a sudden this carrier's cost went way up, right? Really way up there. And so our fraud department drilled into that, and they determined that indeed one of these accounts had been hacked and that somebody was sending a lot of traffic to that country. And if we drill into it a little bit more, you'll see here that this is the cost for that specific vendor. All of a sudden it just ballooned. This was the carrier partner. And then also even the minutes of use balloon for that carrier partner. And so, this was a great opportunity for us because we created one application to kind of manage our carrier costs, but very quickly, once we had developed that capability, we were able to turn that into a fraud application, which ended up actually saving us a lot more money than we saved credits on our carrier bills. So it's kind of fortunate that we developed that capability, and then we were able to turn it into fraud. So I've talked about our company, our data services, customer lake, churn prediction. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've learned in the time that we've been running our big data infrastructure. First of all, like I said at the beginning, we can process a lot more data than we could before. And that data has a lot of details that we weren't able to actually drill into before. And because of the platform we have, we can scale out quickly. So if we need more capacity, all we really have to do is add servers, and we're able to scale it out. And that real-time capability, that fraud instance, I showed you that was a couple of days, right? Well, now, literally in like 3 or 4 hours, we're able to stop that fraud activity right away, and it's because of the real-time of our data. And so lessons learned. So new applications create new opportunities. I talked about that before. We had we created this carrier cost, and then because once we developed that, we were able to turn that into a fraud application that actually is very valuable to us. In the open source world, it's really important to upgrade. So, there's a lot of new services coming out on these open source platforms, and if you get too far behind in your upgrade, you're gonna lag, and you're not gonna be able to leverage the technology. So it's really important to upgrade often. And those legacy systems continue to be important. Remember I talked about the old telephony system, right? That old telephony system is still critical to our operations. And as you can see, we can report off of it now, and we derive a lot of value off of that. Faster is better. Real time creates more opportunities. Like it used to take us several days to do the fraud mitigation. Now we can do it in about 3 or 4 hours, so it really saves us a lot of money. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So we've got this data lake, we've got Streamsets putting the data in, we have Vertica, we have Tableau. And individually, each one of those systems is okay, but together they provide a much more powerful ecosystem than we would have had if they were separate from each other. Okay, so in conclusion, Ringcentral is a growing company with many data sources, and self-service analytics has allowed us to scale out quickly. So as you can imagine, in the old days, everybody had to go through IT to be able to get their reports and such. Now every department in our company has their own report analyst, and they're doing their own reports off of our data lake, which is really powerful. So now we've really expanded the number of people that can look at the data. And data lake improves our ability to understand our customers because we have all the data in one place now. We're able to look at all the different touch points of the customer and understand them better. Streamsets, this is a commercial for Streamsets. Streamsets allows us to quickly bring new data sources onto our data lake, and it's a very agile platform that allows us to do that quickly. And then remember, I told you about the data lake. And now that we have all these touch points, we're able to start feeding this information into our machine learning models, and we're able to proactively understand our customers and what they might be doing next, which helps us improve our customer service and reduce the amount of churn in the company. So that's it. That's all I have to talk about. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them right now. All right, you guys, thanks so much.